The exciting story begins with a desert where an unknown military plane had recently crashed. American soldiers had also arrived at the location to inquire about what had happened. The leader of those officers is named Lackham, who was questioning everyone. An old man living in the village says that a shining object came down at night and caused all this destruction. When the other soldiers go to inspect the military plane, they discover that these planes had disappeared during World War II. So, how did they end up here? It's surprising that the condition of the plane was very good and it was operational. Next, we see an Air Force control center, where a man is commanding his soldiers on the radar about where they need to go. Suddenly, one of the employees informs the military officer flying the helicopter that an unknown object is approaching them. However, the soldiers respond that they cannot see anything. The radar keeps showing signals that the object is getting closer to the helicopter, and before they know it, the unknown object speeds away from the helicopter. Everyone in the control center gets a little scared, so they demand an explanation from the soldier about what happened. The soldiers explain that a shining object passed in front of them, making it difficult to see, and now it has suddenly vanished into the sky. The soldiers speculate that it must be some flying object that doesn't belong to their world. Next, we are introduced to a boy named Barry, who is sleeping peacefully. Suddenly, disturbances start occurring in Barry's house. All the metal objects begin to shake, and electronic devices go completely out of control. When Barry wakes up and goes to check inside, he finds that many things have fallen out of the fridge, as if someone had robbed it. Barry's remote-controlled toys also start moving automatically, but for some reason, Barry smiles while looking elsewhere. Due to the noise, Barry's mother, Doreen, wakes up and heads towards her son's room. Suddenly, Doreen sees her son running towards the jungle, seemingly chasing something. Doreen immediately rushes to catch her son. Now we see a man named Roy inside the same face, who is happily living with his wife and children. But suddenly, Roy receives a call from his company, informing him that there will be a power outage, meaning the electricity for the entire city will go out simultaneously. They ask him to come to the company as soon as possible to fix it. Within a few minutes, this is exactly what happens. The electricity in the entire city suddenly begins to disappear. Roy is puzzled about how this power outage occurred, so he tells his family to stay home and sets off for his company. While on the way, as he checks the map to figure out his route, he sees lights behind his car. Without looking back, Roy assumes that a car is coming from behind and wants to pass, so he moves his car to the side and waves his hand to signal that they can go ahead. However, the light behind Roy's car starts to rise into the air, meaning it is not a car at all, but rather an alien spaceship. The brightness of their spaceship is so intense that Roy cannot see it, but he realizes that it must have come from the flying saucer world to Earth. The alien spaceship begins to travel continuously ahead, and Roy wants to find out more about it, so he starts to pursue it. Although Roy is a very good driver, the spaceship's speed is so high that he cannot catch up. As he speeds in his car, a child suddenly appears in front of him, who is none other than Barry. Just before the collision, Barry's mother rushes in and saves him, and Roy also manages to brake in time. When Roy gets out, he sees many other people fleeing to save their lives. However, Doreen is completely unaware of what is happening. She is just focused on saving her son. Suddenly, 3 flying saucers rush past Roy and the others, being chased by red lights. The police are also continuously trying to capture the aliens from the spaceships. Seeing all this, Roy can't stop himself from going there. He quickly gets back in his car and starts following the spaceship. One of the police cars accidentally fell into a ditch, and now the 3 spaceships, along with the red light, flew off into the distance. Roy had also stopped there with the other police officers because they could not move forward. The spaceship somehow vanished into the clouds, emitting strange colors. Roy had never seen such a unique sight, even in his dreams. He thought of bringing his family to show them all these things, but no one had any idea how far these dangerous aliens could go. Now we see a research team in the desert that had received some strange news. As soon as they arrived in the desert, they found a huge watercraft that had somehow ended up in the middle of the desert. All the researchers were completely shocked, thinking it was impossible, but it seemed that these events were orchestrated by those dangerous aliens. Lakin's team then traveled directly to India because they had learned that strange sounds were coming from the sky in a certain area there. When Lakam's team arrived in India and went to that location, they indeed heard strange sounds from the sky. These sounds fluctuated, as if someone were trying to communicate with them. Lakam's team made a detailed report on those sounds, and after researching, they came to a conclusion. Lakam was now giving a speech in front of senior government officers, explaining that their team had collected many samples of sounds emitted by the aliens. They had decoded these sounds to make them understandable. All the government officers were being handed a book containing unusual scientific symbols. These symbols helped people communicate, allowing Lakam's team to connect each sound to the symbols. They played each sound and explained the symbols so that communication could take place between them and the aliens. Now we see Roy, who is standing with his family and many other people, looking up at the alien spaceships in the sky. However, Roy's children were quite scared of all these happenings. But Roy kept insisting that the aliens wouldn't harm them. For some reason, Roy's son was creating a rock-like shape out of mud, which he must have seen in a dream. Roy didn't pay much attention to these things, but at that moment, the same dangerous alien spaceship began to pass continuously through the sky. Now military helicopters also started chasing them, and the blades created a strong wind. Everyone standing below started to flee for their lives. Here, we see Lakam and his team, who were continuously using the same language to send messages to the sky. Within a short time, they received a reply, which contained some type of coordinates. When Lakam asked his team to match these coordinates with those on Earth, they finally found a spot. After compiling all the coordinates, they discovered the location in Wyoming, so Lakam's team decided to check it out and see what secrets lay there. Now we see Jaren, who is making some kind of painting that resembled the mountain-like drawing created by Roy's son. How all these things relate to the aliens would soon become clear. For some reason, Jaren was about to throw all those drawings into the trash, but soon after, bright lights began flashing rapidly in the sky. Seeing this unusual sight, Jaren immediately rushed to her son Barry, who was saying that it was just a toy. However, it was no toy, but rather an alien spaceship that was steadily descending. As the spaceship came down, a lot of light spread around their house. Jaren quickly took her son Barry inside to keep them both safe, but suddenly all the electronic devices in the house went out of control, causing chaos everywhere. Jaren was completely confused about what was happening. However, her son Barry, despite her protests, slipped out through a small part of the door. Even when Jaren tried to grab him, he wouldn't listen and went outside. After a little while, everything became completely quiet. Jaren immediately ran outside to get her son Barry, but by then it was probably too late. The alien spacecraft had already taken Barry away with them. Now we see a conference of the American government, where everyone is discussing what to do about these alien spaceships. Suddenly, the governor presents everyone with a UFO, saying that what you all are calling alien spaceships is actually just a plate. He shows a photo of the alien spacecraft and claims that it's not a spaceship, but a picture of a plate taken to incite fear among us by some dangerous organization using the name of aliens. The truth was that the governor knew they were alien spaceships, but he didn't want to stir unrest among the people, which could lead to chaos. Now we see the top research team in America being deployed to the location where communication with the aliens could take place. They believed that if they could talk to the aliens, they would take all of them to their planet. These capable researchers and astronauts would go on missions to learn more about the aliens. Therefore, according to the coordinates given by the aliens, everyone began heading to the perfect location known as Devil Mountain, where they were to communicate with the aliens. Now we see Roy, who has been behaving very strangely for a few days. He starts to create a mountain-like structure using his food, something his son had tried to make a while ago. Observing all this, Roy's wife becomes a bit worried about what has happened to her husband. However, Roy seems not to understand. It was as if someone was controlling him to do these things. For some unknown reason, he started bringing all the garden supplies and dirt into the house. All the neighbors came out, seeing Roy's behavior, while his wife continuously tried to stop him. But Roy didn't seem to comprehend anything. At one point, he locked himself in the bathroom, screaming loudly. When he didn't open the door after repeated calls, his wife had to break it down. She then saw Roy inside the bathroom pouring water over himself. Roy was screaming loudly, and his wife started to feel that her husband had completely gone mad. Nevertheless, she gave him some time to recover, but he didn't seem to understand. The next day, he began filling the house with dirt again. His wife, not wanting Roy to harm the children, got angry about his behavior and left with the kids. Roy was now alone, using all the collected dirt to create a mountain inside the house. This was the same mountain that had been appearing in his visions. He built a tall mountain, but then he cut it in half, and as he looked at the structure, some thoughts began to form in his mind. Meanwhile, the news was on, reporting that all the capable officers had reached Devil Mountain. When the photo of Devil Mountain was shown, Roy was shocked because it was the same mountain he had seen in his visions and had built with dirt. The reporters stated that strange poisonous gases were emanating from Devil Mountain, spreading rapidly all around. Therefore, the surrounding areas of Devil Mountain were being evacuated as quickly as possible to protect people's lives. Hearing this, Roy decided to go to Devil Mountain. He immediately got into his car and headed there. Jaren, who had been having continuous visions of Devil Mountain and had drawn many pictures of it inside her house, also set out to find answers at Devil Mountain. There was a large crowd gathered around the areas near Devil Mountain as people were being evacuated. When Roy arrived there, he found Jaren, and they both set off together towards Devil Mountain. On the way, they noticed many dead animals, suggesting that the aliens might have released poisonous gas from inside Devil Mountain. As they went a little further, several researchers blocked their path, taking Roy and Jaren for questioning at their location, where Lacombe and his research team were also present. Lacombe approached Roy and asked if he had seen any visions of spaceships or if he had thought about Devil Mountain at all. Roy replied that yes, he had seen the spaceship and had also thought about Devil Mountain, but he didn't understand why they were asking all these questions. Then Lacombe showed him pictures of several people, saying that these were the individuals who had been having visions of spaceships, and that was why they needed to question them. Roy began to suspect these too, so he asked them about themselves, but Lacombe didn't give any answer. As a result, Roy insisted on leaving the place forcefully. Lacombe then went with his companions to see the general. Here, we learn a reality. The poisonous gas that was supposedly coming from Devil Mountain was just a rumor. Lacombe and his team had spread false information, encouraging anyone who had any thoughts about Devil Mountain to come forward so they could question them. Many people, like Roy and Jaren, had arrived, claiming to have visions of both the spaceship and Devil Mountain. The general explained to Lacombe that this was illegal, as the way they were gathering people was risky for their research, and he could not put innocent lives in danger. The general ordered Lacombe to take all the people who had come there back to the city by helicopter. Thus, Roy, Jaren, and all the others were being taken away in the helicopter. Everyone knew that poisonous gas was supposedly spread all around, but Roy, showing great courage, took off his gas mask. He soon realized that there was no poisonous gas around at all. Seeing this, Jaren also removed her mask, and they all understood that they had likely been lied to about the poisonous gas. Now Roy, along with Jaren, jumped out of the helicopter and immediately started running towards Devil Mountain. Another large man joined them. When the general learned about this, he immediately commanded his soldiers to head to Devil Mountain and quickly capture the three of them. It seemed that the government was conducting some dangerous experiments. The soldiers wanted to hide from the other people. They were spread out everywhere to find Roy and Jaren, but now they received orders to release sleeping gas around Devil Mountain so that the three of them, who had escaped, would fall asleep. This was carried out by military helicopters, and due to the dispersal of sleeping gas, the elderly man who had accompanied Roy and Jaren fell asleep, but the two of them managed to escape and move to the other side of the mountain. There, Roy and Jaren discovered a large military base that looked very advanced. This was the place where Lacombe and his research team would communicate with aliens. They were continuously sending signals into the sky, and within just a few hours, several alien spaceships appeared in the sky, pursued by a red light. Gradually, the three spaceships moved closer to the command base. Lacombe, along with his team, had created communication symbols based on their research, signaling to the aliens, while his team emitted corresponding sounds. The 3 alien spaceships responded in kind, which satisfied Lacombe, confirming that the aliens were not here to attack them. In the next moment, the 3 spaceships soared into the sky and vanished. Roy told Jaren to stay there while he moved ahead to check things out. Suddenly, numerous clouds began to form right above Devil Mountain, so thick that they could be seen from a distance. A signal spread all around, leading more alien spaceships to gather in the area. Shortly after, an entry was made by the alien mothership, which was 10 times larger than Devil Mountain itself. This massive spaceship gradually positioned itself for landing, seemingly having received signals from humans and welcoming them. Lacombe then began to ask Roy what he had seen in his visions that had drawn him towards Devil Mountain. Roy didn't respond and continued to stare at the spaceship. As the spaceship prepared to land, its door began to open, revealing many people stepping out. In fact, these were the soldiers who had gone missing during World War II. Their ships and helicopters were found in the desert, and it seemed that the aliens had left them alive. It was astonishing that the ages of all these kidnapped individuals from World War II remained the same. Among them was Jaren's son, Barry, who made Jaren very happy upon seeing him. The aliens were returning all the people they had kidnapped safely. Suddenly, some alien-type creatures emerged from the spaceship. They were much smaller than humans, but they had large brains. After coming out, Lacombe communicated with them, saying that they could take any human they wanted for research. Consequently, a capable team of researchers and astronauts was called in to accompany the aliens on the spaceship. Roy was now part of that research team. The little aliens were observing the researchers carefully, but in the end, the aliens chose Roy to accompany them on their mission, leaving all the other experienced personnel behind. This meant that Roy would go with the aliens on their spaceship and learn about their way of life on their planet. Lacombe was speaking to the aliens in symbolic language and thanking them. Roy then entered the spaceship with the aliens, after which the small spaceships and the mothership took off into the depths of the sky. And thus, our story comes to an end here.